Best case, worst case up again today. 2 videos again for you. Yep, that's right. The Big Ten on deck today. 2 Big Ten teams. Let's go. Up next in our series of best case, worst case videos, sticking with today's theme of the Big Ten. Of course, we did Nebraska earlier. If you haven't seen that video, click back one video before this one. The Nebraska video was uploaded earlier today. Now, Penn State, the Nittany Lions. And let me say something real quick here about Penn State. I have been very high on James Franklin, and I've received a lot of pushback on that from people, that James Franklin is not as good of a coach as I'm giving him credit for. While I was looking into Penn State today, I decided to go back and take a look in a little bit more depth and detail at James Franklin and try to figure out how right or wrong I might be, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But let's wrap up 2018 for Penn State, of course. James Franklin, this is his how long has he been there? 5 years now? It's be a 6 year. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about it now. James Franklin inherited a 7-win team. Okay, the 4 years before James Franklin got to Penn State, they won 7 games, 8 games, 9 games, and 7 games, respectively. So 7, 7, 8, 9, right? He took over a Penn State team that was absolutely decimated in terms of a public relations viewpoint because of he took over in the midst of the Jerry Sandusky, Joe Paterno, pedophile situation. I'm not getting into all that here. He took over a terrible team. Won 7 his first year, 7 his second year. But then James Franklin had back-to-back 11-win seasons in 16 and 17. And, of course, last year after losing Saquon Barkley, they dropped back to 9 wins, okay? So I was sort of right, and maybe he could have done a little bit better than what he's done. I still think he's one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. I stand by that. Everybody's going to point to Urban Meyer, who now is gone, so you have to take him out of the equation. And this is what I asked on the live stream, who's a better coach in the Big Ten right now than James Franklin? People wanted to point to the Purdue coach. They wanted to point to the Northwestern coach. Some people wanted to point to Harbaugh. I don't know. Check the recruiting rankings. You tell me. But for my money, I like James Franklin. All right, so 2018, they go 9-4, a step back from the previous year. A lot of people sort of saw that coming with the loss of Barkley to the NFL, but 9-4, 6-3 in the Big Ten, a little disappointing. Losses, of course, to Ohio State and Michigan State. Lost those 2 games, though, by a combined 5 points. So both of those games, Penn State was in winnable positions in both of those games. And I think everyone remembers what happened in wasn't it the Ohio State game with a terrible 4th down? Now, that's a knock on Franklin there, I guess. One of the worst 4th down play calls I've seen. Don't forget to talk about Georgia's fake punt, though, in 2. Yep. And then you turn around and just get absolutely blown out by Michigan. So, that is what it is. And then you lost your bowl game to Kentucky 27-24 to Citrus Bowl. You made it to a Fiesta Bowl. You made it to a Rose Bowl. You lost the Rose Bowl, won the Fiesta Bowl. I'll take James Franklin still. I think he's if he's not the best, he's one of the best 2 coaches in the Big Ten. And right now, you just can't change my mind on that. But anyway, that's sort of where they've been leading up to where they're at now. And where are they at now? A lot of question marks. If you thought it was going to be hard to replace Saquon Barkley, which it was, now you got to turn around and replace 3-year starting quarterback Trace McSorley. Now, Dwayne Haskins had an all-American type year last year, but prior to that, Trace McSorley was leading the league in passing in the Big Ten. He's been a steady, reliable quarterback at Penn State over the last 3 years. Tough kid, took off running when he needed to, rarely made the big mistake. A way above average college quarterback. I wouldn't put him in the elite category necessarily, but a way, way, way above average quarterback, and a ton of experience you lose with him having started for 3 years. He's gone. Tommy Stevens is left there, and then a couple of younger guys. What are these people's names? Clifford and Levi. You really got a guy named after a pair of jeans, but so we'll see which way they end up going. But whoever they go with, I don't expect nearly as much production out of the quarterback position this year at Penn State as what you got from McSorley the last couple of years. You're going to have to try to make that up in other areas. So how do the other areas look? Wide receivers. You've got some talented wide receivers, but y'all had to have led the Big Ten in drop passes. I mean, every time I turned on a Penn State game, people were dropping passes. I do like that little guy you got. Is Hamler his name? I might be pronouncing that wrong. He's a little bitty guy, but he's one of these speeds, like one of these home run hitter type of players. He can take it to the house every time he touches it. And you bring in a new wide receiver coach, probably to help sort out your situation with not being able to hold on to the ball. I mean, half your receivers had hands like feet. That's not very good. Running back, of course, you lose Barkley. You replace him with Miles Sanders, and all Miles Sanders did was come in and go for 1,500 total yards last year. That's rushing and receiving combined. I think he had 1,200 and something rushing, 200 and something receiving, 9 total touchdowns, if I'm remembering correctly. Now you got to replace him too. He was a one and done type of thing because he sat behind Barkley. So you got Ricky Slade. What is this? A Notre Dame transfer, or was he kicked off the team? CJ Holmes, that's who I'm thinking of with the Notre Dame thing. But you've got a ton of running back depth. It's just none of it really is that proven. You've recruited really well at the running back position, though. You look at Barkley, he leaves, and you basically didn't lose any production out of the running back spot. Now, obviously, I don't think that Miles Sanders was as gifted or as talented as Saquon Barkley, but when you compare the numbers, they're not that far off in terms of the numbers they put up over the course of the season. Linebacker, I have to talk about Micah Parsons only because I'm still mad Georgia didn't get him. He's not from here. He's from up north somewhere. In fact, he might even be from Pennsylvania if I remember right. But it came down to basically Penn State and Georgia, and you guys got him as part of the 2018 class, and he played a ton as a true freshman. He was a 5-star. He was like the number 4. I think he was number 4 or 5th highest rated recruit in America. I mean, you knew the guy was going to be an absolute animal. How good was he as a true freshman? 82 tackles as a true freshman. That is what you want from a linebacker. This guy is all over the field, and he rarely misses. You do lose a lot on that defensive side of the ball, though. 2019, I think, is setting up to be a good year for Penn State. I think another year where they hover around the 9 or 10 win mark. I have my doubts on Penn State making a run at the Big Ten this year, but I think 2020 could really be the year for Penn State. They have a lot of young talent on this team. So, okay, let's go through the schedule here, and we'll try to figure out a best case, worst case. You open up with a couple of nobodies at home, Idaho and Buffalo. Now, Buffalo is a good team for who they are, but they should have, they have no business competing with you. You should win that game without a problem, be sitting at 2-0 before your 3rd straight non-con home game against Pitt. That'll be a tough game. I like Pitt. Pitt's a pretty good team. As far as the ACC goes, they're definitely upper echelon. Some people would argue they may be the 2nd or 3rd best team in the ACC. We'll see. You get them at home in a tough Week 3 matchup leading into your first bye week. Come out of that and start your conference schedule on the road at Maryland. Talked to a lot of people on my live show over the last couple of months that are trying to convince me that Maryland is a really good team and has a chance to contend for a Big Ten division title, possibly even conference championship. That's a bridge too far for me. I've yet to really dive into Maryland, but I would be completely shocked if Maryland was even in contention to win a division in the Big Ten come November. That's not to say they can't be a good team. That's not to say they can't beat somebody like Penn State. I just can't see a Maryland getting to 9, 10, 11 wins. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that has potential to be a good game. You got to play them on the road there. Turn around from that, you get a home game against Purdue. Sort of middle of the road team. Of course, they housed Ohio State last year. They're still scoring touchdowns in that game. You go on the road at Iowa. Tough game there. That's going to be a tough game, especially considering you got to turn around the following week and play Michigan. I don't see really how anybody could look past Iowa in terms of that being a trap game, but with Michigan looming the next week, that makes that Iowa game tough. Michigan is going to be a really good team again this year. You play right after that, you go on the road and play Michigan State. God only knows what you're going to get out of them. Maybe they might win 10 games. They might win 3. You never know what D'Antonio is going to put on the field. Then you get your second bye week. Come out of that, wrap up your season with 2 home games and 2 away games. First, you go on the road at Minnesota, home to Indiana, at Ohio State, home to Rutgers. You got to go 3-1 there, don't you? Yeah, you do. You do. You want to go 4-0. I get it. But, I mean, at Minnesota, at Ohio State, Indiana, Rutgers, you'll win without a problem. They're one of the worst teams in America. What's the best case scenario here for Penn State? I sort of gave it away already. I think Penn State I think they can go 9-3 again. I think they're probably going to lose 3 games. I think inexperience at the quarterback position is going to bite them a couple of times in a couple of these close games. Maybe it's Pitt. Maybe it's at Maryland. Maybe it's at Iowa. I think Michigan is honestly a much better team than Penn State this year. I would expect Michigan to probably win that one. At Michigan State, who knows? Minnesota, you can win that one. Indiana, you can win that one. At Ohio State, it's going to be tough. They've got some issues too, but this is week 11, so Justin Fields should be way more familiar at that point in the season than he is now in terms of running that offense. Rutgers, I think you can win. I really don't see a way you do better than 9-3 here. Just being honest, just being realistic. You know what? Okay, you talked me into it. If this quarterback ends up being better than I'm expecting year 1, and it's not that I think he's going to be bad. It's just McSorley had all that experience. He was really, really good. It's hard for me to imagine somebody's going to come in and duplicate that. Pretend I'm wrong about that, though. Maybe 10-2. Maybe 10-2. I'm really tempted to just say 9-3, but 10-2. I'm in a good mood today. 10-2. Worst case scenario, I could see you losing 5 games here. I mean, I could see Pitt beating you. I could see you losing to either Maryland or Purdue. I could see you losing possibly to Iowa. I think Michigan will definitely beat you. Michigan State's up in the air, and Ohio State could beat you. I'm going to say somewhere between 7-5 and 10-2. I think 9.5 and 2.5. Can't do that. All right, 10-2, 7-5. Have a great day!